Welcome to the Deeper Podcast. This is a special, would this be called a breaking news edition? Mo is sitting over here. You can't, we didn't have enough microphones, so Mo's sitting here like a producer, like a breaking news edition of this. You guys know that we've been talking about what's going on in the Middle East and in Israel, and we've told you that these are real stories. They're not just numbers. They're not statistics. These are people with real lives. And just yesterday, our good friend Sarah Olson reached out. She works for Intercessors of America. Some of you all know JT Olson, JT with both hands. Many families in our church have adopted children because of both hands. So they reach out and say, hey, there's this team in town, and started telling me the story. I was like, man, we gotta get in on this. And so to that end, I want to jump right in. So who we've got here today is Todd Lamphere. Did I say that right?
Lamphere.
Lamphere. I was so close. And Todd worked at, well, tell us what you did in the White House before what you're doing right now.
So I was the chief of staff for the senior advisor to President Trump on faith, who ran the White House Office of Faith, Pastor Paula White. So still serve with her on that, and now serve as the vice president for government relations for City Serve International.
And for those that don't know, City Serve started by the guy that started Convoy of Hope.
That's right, Dave Donaldson.
Dave Donaldson. Several initiatives around the world, familiar with him. So you guys are working in Israel, which is where you've come across our other guest, which is Dr. Gepner.
Hi.
Yftach Gepner. And before we get into the story, I really want to get right into it, but can you tell us, like, just your name, what you do in Israel, and how long you've been?
Yes.
You were born and raised, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I was born and raised in Israel, in the south part of Israel. Yftach Gepner. Normal days, I'm a professor at the Faculty of Medicine at Tel Aviv University. I do sports science and metabolism. I have colleagues here in the U.S. as well.
Would explain why you're in such good shape.
And those days are much more Yftach from Ein Habesor rather than being professor in the Faculty of Medicine in the past almost 2 months.
Yeah. So did you go, is that where you went to school for medicine, was Tel Aviv University?
So I actually did my postdoc here in Florida, in North Orlando, in UCF.
Okay.
And then I came back to Tel Aviv University with the expertise in sports science.
Right.
And we developed that now in Israel and opened actually the first exercise physiology program in Israel.
Well, I want to start with saying, on behalf of my family, this church family, we are so sorry what's happening in your country. It's, and I'm even more sorry at the response of the world. Angry, but also sorry that you guys are facing that, especially knowing what you have just gone through. So to go back to October 7th, which in a weird way feels like so long ago, and yet yesterday at the same time. I don't know how it feels to you, but the moshav that you live in, the town that you live in, is 4 miles from Gaza.
Yeah, a bit less than 4 miles. Yeah.
Less than 4 miles. So you were home the night of the attacks?
Yeah, so the October 7 was started at 6:30, 5 in the morning. It was supposed to be a very quiet and relaxing Saturday morning. People were supposed to went jogging, had a breakfast with the family. It was a beautiful day, beautiful sunny day. But it all changed that morning from the paradise we live in to hell. I woke up in my bed from the massive rocket attack next to my wife, Michal. And after a few seconds, we realized this is not normal. In the past 22 years, we are used to rockets on the place we live, in the Eshkol region and the entire, close to Gaza Strip. But we realized there's something different going on.
Your wife, and you've got kids?
3 kids, Ruth, Ella, and Alon.
How old are they?
15, 13, and 10.
Wow. So, as a father, where do your thoughts go immediately?
So I look at my wife after 3 seconds and I tell her, let's grab the kids to the safe room. In Israel, especially where we live, everyone has a safe room because of the rockets. We grabbed them to the safe room, wake them up, and we said that it's gonna be big. It's gonna be something different this morning.
You could just tell it was different, huh?
Just by the amount of rockets and bombing around you, figure out like this is crazy. And after a few minutes, like every moshav or kibbutz, so the difference between kibbutz and moshav, this are all the Eshkol, 32 villages, and they're all very community oriented. We celebrate holidays together, and we are no each one of the people
Yeah.
that live in. Like, we live in a place that all my friends from the kindergarten are my neighbors.
Yeah.
Like, my kids will never go on their own when we lived in Denver or in Orlando. But the place we live in normal days, people, like, it's 100% safe place.
Yeah. Having been to, maybe you too, Todd, but I was born and raised in a we call them farm towns in America, a little tiny farm town. And it was the same thing. Our parents all grew up there. I grew up there. We all knew each other. We took care of each other. And I know that there's some nuances between moshav and kibbutz, but at the end of the day, these are villages that are farm towns, farming agricultural communities. And having been to a couple near Beersheba, like I felt, I'm thinking, we're so close to Gaza, but it feels so peaceful.
This is the paradox.
And safe, yeah.
It is a paradox that you're in the most safe. That's how I felt until that morning. That's the most safe place to be in. But it all changed.
So you guys head to the safe room.
Went to the safe room.
And what time is it now, 6:30?
6:35.
Okay.
So yeah, after a few minutes, the head of security in the moshav, in the village, sent a WhatsApp message to everyone.
So is everybody like in a group WhatsApp?
Yeah, it is.
In the whole village?
You know, funny.
Huh.
We had, God was with us that day and even before. Because the most important thing that happened to Ein Habesor is a massive car stalling in the past few months. People stealing cars. People stealing cars at night. And, we have been trained. There was supposed to be like a team of 12 people to protect the village, but it got expanded to almost 70 people that ready to react in case of something happen. So without knowing that, in the past few weeks before, we got trained for that day. And when the head of security text us, it's something big. Go to defense. Go to the defense of the fence of the village and to the gate. In case of something happen, everyone went outside to protect. I didn't have any weapon, so I go out with a stone.
It's interesting to note that each of these moshavs and kibbutzes, they only have 5 rifles, 5 M16s that the IDF gives them. So
and they're supposed to share them?
That's what they do. And so they literally defended their moshav with 4 guns in a rock that Dr. Gepner was holding.
That's amazing. So to that end, so the difference maybe between, and say the name of the town again, Ein
Habesor.
Ein Habesor. Between that and maybe some of the other kibbutzes or moshavs is that you guys, just by coincidence, or I've heard someone say that a coincidence is just when God remains anonymous. But by coincidence, you guys had already had 70 people out protecting against car thieves, so you were already on alert.
Absolutely. And not only that, the other fact that we are not the first line with the Gaza Strip. There are other villages and kibbutz that they are closest, and we start getting messages for them. They're coming in,
Right,
they're shooting. And we start hearing, it's like a mile away, those villages between each other. And we start hearing, you go outside and you realize you hear guns shooting. That's something happening here different.
Yeah, that's not normal, huh? So with that, you've got 4 guns, 70 people to protect. How do you defend against, I don't know if it was dozens at this point coming onto you guys, but there was more than 4 guns coming at you, right?
Absolutely. So let me tell you like the story what happened, like they attacked. So we went to the fence. My brother, Elad, was the only one with the M16 in the front gate. He went there around 7:30, and he decided to close the gate at 7:52. 2 minutes after they came, dozens of Hamas terrorists with massive guns, RPGs, and well armed people ready to get in and to kill as much as they can. You realize they're coming, and your brain cannot understand information. Digest the amount of unreality of people that are coming in front of you. So he knew they were supposed to come with a pickup truck, but only after they start shooting him, he shoot back. He was fighting with them for a few minutes by himself, with dozens of people. And limited bullets.
Yeah.
He got shot in his shoulder, and he was keep shooting, because he knew once they're going to get into the village, we screwed, we're done. And he's the big hero in the story. That's not me. But
yeah, I mean, it's living in Middle Tennessee, which is a bubble inside of a bubble of America. You know, it's so hard to get our mind wrapped around, that you even have a wall around your town at all, because there is a safety issue there. That's something completely foreign to us. But, you know, being the guy holding the line at the gate, the first line of, and actually last line of defense, if they got through there, I mean, what a legend. So he's shot. Where are you at this point?
I was in the other part of the fence, again, with a stone in my hand. I had a Tesla.
A stone and a Tesla. I think that's the story of David and Goliath, as I recall.
Absolutely.
5 smooth stones and a Tesla.
He gave me a call, and he told me he got shot, and come pick him up to the hospital, to the closest medical center. I realized I have to act fast. I moved to the Tesla to sports mode, and I grabbed him. I picked him up. He got shot in his shoulder without the bullet coming out. And as a professor in the Faculty of Medicine, I realized he can get into any internal organ. It might be in immediate life risk. We could not go out from the front gate because there was the terrorist in there. So we went from the back gate, from the off-road to the road that goes to the hospital. We drove the off-road, and I lay him back.
Which means you're leaving the walls of the relative safety of your...
Yeah.
That's a big risk.
And that time, my family, it's in the safe room at home, my wife and my 3 kids. We went from the off-road to the road that go to the hospital. I looked to the left. It was clear, but when we turned right and we went on the road, we see in front of ourselves about 300 feet, like a 30 Hamas terrorist with 2 pickups and 5 motorcycles.
So you've turned right onto a road, and now you're facing 2 pickups, motorcycles, dozens of terrorists coming right at you in your Tesla.
Absolutely. It took me, again, a second to realize what my eyes see in front of me. We went a bit backward, and then they started a massive shooting with a machine gun.
So you're going backwards. You hit reverse in the Tesla. I'm assuming they go pretty fast, right? I mean, is it?
You know,
but have you ever driven that fast in reverse before? That's not easy to do.
You know, I was in the IDF driving in off-road, so it has some experience. But I always say that Tesla was one of my best buying choices in my life. I didn't know that it's actually going to save my brother's life. Because we went reverse so fast, about 40 miles per hour, off-road, when the two of those motorcycles trying to catch us and shooting, and my brother got hit, and he just was screaming, and it was bleeding all over, and bullets are all over, blowing the car, and the glasses all over. We went I would say 500 feet backward, fast as we can, then make a U-turn, and we drove only like Tesla to accelerate, there was smoking all over in the car, and I opened the window. There was no window at that point. It was all like a windy and smoke, and we went fast as we can, again inside and absorb from the big gate. And
so you go back into the town?
Right to the town, because my body was bleeding all over.
Yeah.
They were being so close. It was less than a second separate us from being dead at that point. We got into an absorb, and a few seconds after, the battery died because we got multiple bullets of the battery. So there was so many options that showing us how God was with us that morning. We got into the Moshav, and my brother was under a life risk, and you have to go to the ER as fast as they can. Coincidentally, you mentioned the description of coincidentally. Again, there was an ambulance in the village. The driver wasn't there because it was a weekend. He went to a holiday, he went to vacation with his family. So we stole the ambulance and put a IV to my brother, and 2 hours off-road, escape from other pickups and motorcycles of those Hamas terrorists, we luckily bring him to the hospital, to the ER, right before he got into a shock, and a few minutes before we lost him, and now he's okay and he's safe. And
so he's okay now. That was the question. I'm sure everybody. I wanted to know, but everybody wants to know that. So he's okay now, as okay as you can be if you've been shot. And
he's strong. He's strong. He has a strong body. He's strong mentally because we don't have any other choice.
When I met him, he was walking, had his M16 still strapped to his shoulder. He was ready for round 2.
Wow. So it's been 50 days? How many days now? 60? Almost
60.
Almost 60 days. Let me ask this question, though. How many people did you lose in your town? Like, how many ultimately did you have to say goodbye to?
In our town in Ein Habesor, inside the village, nobody died.
Wow.
We saved the entire village. So thanks to my brother's heroic story.
That's amazing.
And other people that also fight with those terrorists, we saved the village. 2 minutes separate from Ein Habesor being second Berry on yours. 2 minutes. This is one of the biggest villages in Eshkol region.
Yeah.
And they targeted Ein Habesor because not only the dozens of people that tried to get in, there was 5 pickups with many of them waiting to get in, to murder, to rape, to loot it, and to do those unhumanity things to Ein Habesor.
Yeah, which did happen in multiple other kibbutzes and moshavs, like other towns. That happened. In as much as our legacy media and even our social media platforms are wanting to silence those pictures and those images, those are real. What happened is real. Like, there was murders and cowards.
Those are real. Yeah, we lost. You asked me if we lost. So we lost many good friends. We lost families. I lost my cousin Tal, that's defends Adam Moshav, my kids, and we lost so many, like, teachers, coaches, friends. You know, I told you about, I have 3 kids. They know things that they shouldn't. Like
their innocence was stolen from them.
Yeah, they literally lost their childhood in so early in stage in their life. Like, when a 15-year-old girl know that their friend may have been raped by multiple people, one after the other, and then they shoot their head. Any liberal person cannot support their side. I mean, if you consider yourself as a liberal, this is a pure hate. This is just get into a house and you hear babies screaming inside a safe room that is locked, and you go outside and you take the spare tires to burn it in front of the door to make them die over there while they're screaming. This is a level of hate that the world need to know of what those people done. And that not only those 300 terrorists that come in, the 6,000 civilians from Gaza Strip that crossed the international border that day to loot it and to steal. Like, how a person can get into a burned house, step over a murdered infant to take his toys to his kids. I've been in those places. I've been in those villages that got totally destroyed. You can hear the story, you can see the photos, and you can watch the videos. But you cannot smell, even this podcast, you cannot smell the level of hate, the pure hate, like the ISIS and Al-Qaeda or just want to spray. It's not like the story of Ein Habesor, Eshkol of Israel. It's the story about justice and evilness versus, like, liberal. This is thanks to you guys, this is the key message we want to facing how to make our future bright for the entire world. How we can make this our sorry for getting too emotion. How we can think positively that we can make an impact to make it a better place.
The naivete. A friend of mine that I've become friends recently, he wrote a book called Necessary Endings. But he talks about three kinds of people: the wise, the fool, and the evil. And a wise person hears the truth. They adapt the truth to their they adapt their life to the truth. That's truth. I need to change my life to the truth. A fool hears the truth and tries to change the truth to fit their narrative. And there are very smart fools out there.
Yeah.
And his point, by the way, in this is that you need to know who you're dealing with, because if you're trying to talk logically with a fool, fools only listen to consequences. They don't listen to facts. It's why you can have the same conversation over and over again. They're like, why are you still? But then the evil, so he says, with a wise person, you talk to them, we have a truth conversation, things get better. A fool, there's consequences, and things either get better or they're gone. But he says, then when you get to the evil part, and you've got to know this, that's when you get the guns and get the lawyers, because there's no negotiating. And he actually uses that in reference to relationship. He's a trained psychologist. Henry Cloud is his name. He's anyway, great guy. But
it's a beautiful definition.
But when you put that lens on what's happening in the world right now, there's a fine line between fools and evil, but the results sometimes feel exactly the same. And when one of the jokes that's been flying around America lately is that, even when you start talking about queers for Palestine and things that they're saying here in America, it's literally like KFC, chickens for KFC. Like there's no logic in it at all, because the very things, what you just said, if you're a liberal, progressive, whatever, the very values that you say you want, Hamas, Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda, none of them have any interest in any of that. If you want any kind of freedom of anything, radical Islam, even moderate Islam, you can't. There's a reason why women were only allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia, like in the last couple of years. Like, this is not a hard conversation, but for whatever reason, we have a lot of fools in our American universities who hear truth and are trying to adapt the truth to fit their narrative.
Yeah.
You, having just lived through that, educated in the United States as well as in Israel, you literally have had a front row seat. When you see, read, hear the protests, like for instance, it just happened. They tried to take over the Christmas tree lighting in Times Square. What do you want to say to those people?
I want to say that the Palestinian and those countries that you mentioned deserve a better life. They deserve. I mean, Gaza Strip could be a Singapore. People could be very happy and successful, and educated. But they choose by their leaders. They choose the evil, and there is other option to make the world be a better place.
Yeah,
I mean, the things that my kids have been through in the past. My son is 10 years old. He play basketball, and he lost his coach. He told me, "Why? Why, Dad? What is the reason to do such things?"
Is this question, why do they hate me so much? Is that the deeper question?
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
We have been facing so many tough and hard-working situation in the past almost 2 months. Kidnapping. Yagil is a good friend of my middle daughter. He just came back. They just released him like a few days ago. And before they kidnapped him, he told the terrorist, "I'm too young, don't take me. I'm too young. I'm not part of it. I haven't started my life yet." Unfortunately, as a father, I don't have a clear answer to all of those questions, because I cannot understand the level of hate. Put the rockets under a bed of a baby. Yeah. That's what we found there. I don't know if you have kids, how can you put the rockets under the bed?
Yeah. Moving forward, there's geopolitical issues, just regular old social political issues. But one of the issues in front right now is, from a Christian faith, one of the commands of Christ is to care for the least of these brothers of mine, and he specifically uses that Matthew 24 and 25 in the context of violent times in the earth. It's one of the things, Todd, that you know this because you work with CityServe, but Jesus was saying, if you've done it for the least of these brothers of mine, right, you've done it for me, talking about clothing and feeding. And again, it says it, which is a scripture that is great. It's everybody from World Vision to whoever, like but he was using that in context of a time that he was predicting in the future of violence on the earth, right, of earthquakes and famines and wars and rumors of wars. Turbulent times, people in prison. So when you read his list of things, you were naked and you didn't clothe me, I was in prison, you didn't visit me, you're like, oh, he's talking about persecuted people, right? Persecuted Christians. And City Serve is it literally in the middle of that. You guys have got initiatives in Ukraine, but Israel's one of those 7 initiatives.
Yes, right. One of our 10 initiatives.
10, okay. Tell me what is City Serve, and by the way, other faith communities, as far as Christian faith communities, because I know, by the way, like you guys are hearing only what the mainstream media is really feeding out there. I will say this, maybe this is cold comfort. I know a ton of pastors. I know a ton of Christians, and they're not getting any time on MSNBC or CNN, but there are tens of millions, if not more, Christians in America who are standing in faith with you guys and ready to help, ready to do something. And one of the things that we as a church like to be a part of is saying, okay, this is what the enemy, the kingdom of darkness, hate wants to put into this world. We as a Christ follower, our job is to get to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And that's what City Serve is doing. What is the faith community doing right now, specifically in Israel? And then what are you guys specifically doing, and how can we get involved?
There are a lot of great organizations out there that really are doing a ton of work. You have Firm, which is an organization that's been there 40 years. They're actually housing displaced families in hotels, paying for the rooms, the whole bit. They're doing a great job. What we wanted to do at City Serve, the first thing we wanted to do is we wanted to be boots on the ground. The ministry of presence is so valuable. Just to be there, to hug a neck, to let them know that the Christian community, in particular the evangelical community, cares, and we're here to help. And so when we went there, Israel is just sort of big. When you say you give to Israel, we wanted to take that pie called Israel, and we wanted to take a sliver. We just want to take a piece of the pie. Mm-hmm. In this case, meeting with the heroes of Ein Habesor to say, listen, these people are really the antithesis, or the embodiment, I should say, of their biblical significance in town. Ein Habesor is the town in 1 Samuel 30 with Ziklag, where David goes and he comes back, and he and his 600 men's wives and all their belongings are taken. And David asks God, what do I do? He says, arise and go, for you shall recover all. And those 600 men with David stopped at the valley of Besor, which is modern-day Ein Habesor. And that's where 200 of them said, we can't go any farther. We're going to set up camp right here. And that became the staging ground for when the 400 others went, recovered all, came back to these guys. And what Ein Habesor, they're living up to their name. They're living up to their heritage. They're living up to their pedigree. And we said, this is who we really need to hang our hat with right here. City Serve has a hub pod model where we resource a hub that resources points of distribution or pods. And as we looked at Ein Habesor and with Dr. Gepner and all those around him, we said this is a perfect example of how we can reach the whole valley of Eshkol. And so those kibbutzes next to them, like kibbutz Nir Oz, that we went boots on the ground there and saw firsthand the things that no one should see or experience. And kibbutz Beri, they're a mile from the Moshav that successfully defended itself. And so these people want to be the ones to help rebirth these other kibbutzes. It's going to be a couple of years.
Yeah, this won't happen overnight.
Yeah, this is a long-term play.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, it was important with CityServe and CityServe Israel to identify with a Moshav that had our heartbeat as well, to help their community. They could have every right to just go inward, and they've chosen to go outward and to open up their community to the other communities that didn't fare nearly as well as they did. So 90% of Ein Habesor is displaced right now. They're in Aloft, which is a town that's southernmost town in Israel. So they're 3 hours away. And so immediately what we've done...
Where are they staying in those places?
Mainly in hotels.
Hotels, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
In 200 square foot rooms.
And it's funded privately, by the way, Pastor. It's not, the government hasn't come in at this point and given any disbursements of funds or anything of that nature to the people. So they're gracious people and gracious business people in the States have taken care of this amazing group of people. Flew up to see the community there. They're so loving. They're disillusioned, as we all are. But we wanted to immediately bless them with clothing from our friends from Jockey to washing machines. They're in this hotel. They've got about 700-800 of their residents there, and they have 3 little tiny washing machines. So people just wait in line sometimes for days.
Oh man!
Just to. Yeah. And then something that Dr. Gepner shared with me that just floored me. He said, we have to wash our clothes every day because kids are wetting their beds every day. Every time they hear an alarm go off, Yemen is firing rockets, over their area, and just re-traumatizing these kids. So we have that immediate need of meeting those basic, fundamental, clothing, shelter. But then we want to go into more of a long-term play. And for lack of a better word, is we're going to be adopting these 320 families of Ein Habesor. So you have 320 families, 1,100 residents, 400 are age 12 and below. And
wow.
So we, and they can't work. 60% of Israel's produce comes from this region right here. All the Thai workers are gone, so they have no help. So CityServe will be introducing what we call serve mission trips, where you'll see some of the sites. You'll see the sites that everyone goes to see, but you're also going to pick up a knife and pick up some equipment, and you're going to harvest some cucumbers or some lettuce or zucchini.
Right.
But
I feel like going back to my childhood, actually. I did that growing up.
We have a place for you. So that's
actually really cool, Todd, because that's the at the end of the day, it's easy to tweet that we're supporting Israel. Easy. I say that, and yet feels like half the church is silent. But it's those things are pretty easy, and it's easy to write a check. Again, important, and we need those as well. But the long-term commitment is, if there's one thing that our culture has done to society right now, is that this is the next crisis, and then we get whatever, and then we move on to the next one and the next one, and so it's like a lot of Roman candles that go off, but then they're gone. But what the church is supposed to be about, right, is it's one of the reasons why Jesus would have chosen the local church, local churches to be his. We discovered that in Haiti, probably like you guys have discovered, right? When the earthquake happened, the UN was inept. They were late. And when they did finally get there, they put everybody in soccer fields. So there's this humiliating walk to you stand in line, we're out of water. Meanwhile, hundreds and hundreds of churches become distribution network for Convoy of Hope. I remember Convoy actually did, you guys, your former organization, they sent supplies to us And then the church has distributed it from there. So the long term, the UN's long gone from Haiti, but the churches are still there.
Yeah, and I think that's really that is the model and makeup of CityServe.
Yeah,
it's to resource the local church so that they can be the hero in their community. And yeah, I mean, you're so right. Disasters have about an 8-day shelf life.
Is that it now?
Yeah. It's once they're out of the news cycle.
Yeah.
We're still doing work in Maui. And the reason why we work through the local church, we're still doing work in Ukraine. The reason why we do it through the local church is the local church was there before the disaster. They're there during it, and they're going to be there long after.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you another question. This is going to be a little bit of a left field one, and we can edit it out later if you don't want to talk about it. You worked with the previous administration, and I remember, friends of mine, they're sending me pictures from inside the White House, Christian music artists that if I said their names you'd know. And I'm like, people can say what they want about President Trump, but there are literally born again, conservative, whatever, Christians that have access to this administration that I've never seen before, which I know you were in the middle of. How does that compare to our current administration as far as faith community? What kind of access or support are you guys seeing from the current administration?
What we had under the presidency of Donald Trump was you had the most open, friendly administration to people of faith, all faith, but certainly the evangelical community just, flourished in it. In the 4 years under President Trump, over 10,000 faith leaders went through the White House. You talk about the worship. We had spontaneous worship at the White House, with Nashville's own Danny Goki.
Danny lives 3 minutes from here, right? I mean, it's literally and those are the kind of pictures I'm talking about. Ian Eskelin, Mike Tate,
Michael Tate just spontaneously whips out a, turn your eyes upon Jesus, and actually had one of our deputy director for Office of Public Liaison afterwards. He said, "What just happened in here?" I said, "God showed up."
The presence of God, my friend.
But there was such a faith-friendly environment and to protect faith and protect religious liberties. Unfortunately, this administration has taken the opposite. Honestly, it's just taken the opposite philosophy that we had.
Yeah, we, from where we sit, I would rather the government just leave us alone in general, right? I mean, I'm perfectly okay if they'll just leave us alone, which doesn't seem to be the case. And so it gave me great hope because, there's all this conversation in our culture right now about, and it's always used as a pejorative and insult to call it Christian nationalism and just put it all under one, whatever. But if you really just logically think, man, wouldn't we want people with good morality, a good, orthodox faith, whatever? Why wouldn't we want that person making decisions in leadership, right? And so I'll say this, that COVID was a thing that I don't know how it worked where you were at, but where I was at, I suddenly realized I thought there were friends that I thought were my friends that I realized aren't my friends anymore. They don't want to talk to me anymore. This has a very similar feeling to me. There are friends of mine that I'm watching what they're saying going, this is what you think? I don't think you're supposed to say that out loud. And some of them are pastors and Christian leaders. So they're either deliciously naive or back to the wise fool, they're evil. They're fools. They're not evil, unlike Hamas, which is evil. But at the same time with fools, I mean, there's nothing, having a conversation. Who was it that said that having a fight with a fool is like playing chess with a pigeon? I'll probably get this wrong, but he'll just knock all the pieces, crap on the board, and walk off like he won. Yeah. So we don't play chess with pigeons, and we don't argue with fools. But we still live in a world where, current administration aside, we need wisdom in those offices and wisdom in those from the local on up to the national. What do you think is the future for the next couple of years with this election cycle happening right now?
I will tell you this: I believe it lies squarely in the hands of Christians. I really do, and particularly people in the pulpit. Hosea 4:6 really is a disease within the faith community now. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And just like with COVID, where they either became silent or they drank the Kool-Aid or whatever it was, they said, you know what, you tell us we can't meet, okay, we can't meet. There was no pushback. There was, this same situation, you're so exactly right as it relates to Israel. You're going to have people who are going to be pushing for, you're going to have pastors who are going to be pushing for a two-state solution and don't understand, again, destroyed for lack of knowledge.
That's good. That's good, Todd.
The people of Issachar, the Bible said, were men who had understanding of their times to know what Israel ought to do. And if there's anything that we're doing we work with, it's called the National Faith Advisory Board. City serves actually the compassion arm of the National Faith Advisory Board. It's what we took from the White House and we just privatized it once we were ceremoniously kicked out, right?
Yeah.
And really what we're about is making sure that God's people are educated on policy, to know that I'm convinced that pastors want to speak truth. That's why they're called into that. They just need the courage, they need the backup, and they need to know what to say.
Yeah, starting with they need to know what they're talking about.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Or at least know somebody who does.
Yeah.
The thing that I learned in these last few years, some of the mistake I think in the Christian community is however a pastor defines their role really does, and this is common sense, but it really does play out in how they're going to interact in the world. And so I have very dear friends who silent about pretty much anything except for the Bible, without any acknowledgement then that the Bible itself actually says we need this wisdom for the world. So these abortion is not a political issue, right?
It's a moral issue.
It's a moral issue, and so just when you're silent about that, you say a lot without saying anything.
100% you do.
And but the dear friends of mine would say this is how they define their role, which is my job is just to quote unquote my job is just to preach the gospel.
Okay. Well, Genesis 12:3 is still in the book.
It's still part of the gospel.
Romans
11 is literally right after Romans 10, right? The gospel is Romans 11. All of Israel will be saved. I have not forgotten my people, Israel. I have not forgotten them.
That's right.
That's the gospel.
Yeah. It's just having the courage to be able to speak on topics that go against the flow of the modern narrative that comes out of our mainstream media.
Yeah.
And that's where we've got to have the Joshua 1:9, only be strong and very courageous, right? To make sure that you do speak the truth. We speak it in love.
Yeah.
But we still have to speak it.
Yeah. Yeah, silence is just not an option.
Right. Not anymore.
And I'll say this, I don't know how it feels in Israel right now, but the bar for courage is so low in America right now that, we'll say things, Mo or I, on the podcast, whatever, and we'll get like, oh man, that was so courageous. But saying that a man can't have a baby, that's actually not a courageous thing to say. It's just true. But the bar is so low that you could be considered courageous and not really have to do a whole lot for it.
We actually could use the courage of the Israelites, the Jewish people in Israel. I mean, because they've got a plethora of it right now. Yeah.
Yeah, what we need are men like your brother and like you, right? The Tesla's, stunt driver, willing to stand in the gap. And in the year leading up to this attack, I was there with a group in February 2023. And we wandered into a few different protests that were Israelis protesting against Netanyahu and the court and all that. And I will say, I mean, at least the protests we went through were actually they were largely peaceful. I never felt unsafe. We had come from I don't remember, a wine and cheese tasting or something, literally walked right into the middle of a protest. Like, give me an Israeli flag. I don't know we're protesting, but this feels like fun. But there was obviously a lot of tension leading up to this, the attack that just happened. are you feeling any kind of unity of the country coming together, or is it still pretty divided?
So the disagreement that have been in October 6th, right before, we've been in the bottom in terms of what should be next. How should we step forward from here in terms of like disagreement in Israel? I can tell you that it just make us stronger. It just make us to be a nation and closer to each other. Disagreement is not relevant right now.
Yeah.
And like we did before, like the Jewish people came from the Holocaust and build up a beautiful country without that nobody even imagined. After the 73 war, we got just stronger, become to be a standard nation without much sources. And like my parents established Ein Habesor from sand to a beautiful village. Yeah. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen now. I mean, it's going to be a bright future.
One of the things that's really cool about Ein Habesor and the whole area, and this will be a part where you can fact check me, or somebody can email me, or they always will. Am I right that Ein Habesor, like that whole part of Israel, that the people who were displaced after Menachem Begin, Jimmy Carter, Camp David Accords, that they were placed there, but it was a desert.
At 82, yeah. So
a desert that you guys turned into a beautiful lush.
Right. I actually was born in Sinai. Like my family was evacuated from Sinai in 82.
How old are you?
3.5.
Well done.
3.5.
I would have never guessed that. Okay.
So the core of people, the type of people that now in Ein Habesor in the entire region, I said coincidentally a few times in this podcast, but that's not coincidentally. It's all from someone that lead us to went through this path.
Yeah.
We're going to be like the Ein Habesor in the entire school. We're going to come back. We're going to come back stronger. Thanks to you guys. We're going to make this place alive and stronger and safer because they know other option. Yeah. We must adopt other villages until, as you said, it's going to take years. We on the process to adopt other villages until we will be able to rebuild each one of them better and stronger than what it was in October 7.
And we want to be a part of that. I mean, that's knowing that you guys just lost almost 2 years of income, of tourism. We had a trip scheduled for. Actually, we were in Israel February 2020, right up to March. Like we were when all that was changing. It was some of the last groups out were ours. So you lose a couple of years because of the world shutting down. You're just getting right back up and running again here properly, and now to be hit with this, like this is a huge financial blow to your nation, but to your people. So we want to stand with and do what we can. Like I'm willing to bet that vast majority of people even listening to this or will be with us on Sunday have no idea that there are thousands of people living in hotel rooms because they can't go home right now on their own dime or on their own. The hotels are taking a hit. So they've already taken a hit and now another hit, which is feeding and providing for. And, sure, obviously I wish the government, probably like you guys, the Israeli government was helping, but they're probably a little busy right now. Trying to keep things together. So this is our chance to, as a church, to say we're going to put a flag in the ground here. And I love the idea that it gets to be in a place that has so much heritage. Am I remembering right that the hospital was in Beersheba?
You guys, Soroka Hospital. Yeah. I mean, we are. By the way, we are with my brother. We've been the first together from the entire area. And we got the first to get into the ER and
if Tesla doesn't give you a sponsorship, look, I don't. This is like a Tesla commercial. Like that's. I mean, I've been in. They're fast. Yeah.
It literally saved their life due to acceleration and everything.
Yeah.
And like, can you imagine? Like 2 hours later, we came down to the ER because we realized my brother will not be able to have the surgery that day. It was all red.
Yeah, I'm not sure the insurance claim will actually go through. Shot up.
So we want to be a part of that. I mean, when you talk about adopting a village, what is your, and by the way, if the answer is we're still figuring it out, just know we're figuring it out, people, so you're not going to, that won't scare me, but what is the immediate plan? Obviously, immediately taking care of immediate needs like washing machines and laundry. Like, what's the next phase that happens?
Yeah, great question. The next phase for us is to begin to get American families and churches that will sponsor a family for 6 months. And it's not going to be able to meet all of their needs, but you know what we've set with the people at Ein Habesor is a $500 a month stipend that we can give to them to be able to so they can meet their needs, whatever they may be. Again, jockeys come on board with us, others, but
so basically, to sponsor one family right now is $500 a month. There's 300 families.
There's 320 families.
Okay.
Yep.
And the commitment for that $500 a month, how long do you anticipate that?
So we're setting 6 months right now, and that will be the end of that phase. Then we're going to move into the phase of bringing in the other kibbutzes. These beautiful people in Ein Habesor, they have 240 lots that they're giving to these other communities. Now, this is the Western mindset. We can't wrap our brains around this. He grew up in the same place that he was born in. You know, Nir Oz was a kibbutz that was developed in 1958, and the people who started it are still there. They don't leave. You know, and so for us, we bounce from one neighborhood to another. They don't. So they want to get back to their kibbutz. You know, they want to get back to their. So being in Ein Habesor, they're 1 mile from where they're actually going to be rebuilding. And so, you know, the fact that they would actually give to their brothers and sisters land, that's a concept that we would have a difficult time with.
Americans would be wincing at that,
Yeah, well, we'd be making money off of it, is what we would do.
We call that capitalism in crisis. That's right. America's perfected that.
Yeah, but they're not. You know, so it's to help with tiny homes. The next phase would be tiny homes, and
I mean, just to give you an idea, going outside to the fence with a rocket in my head, that's what represent giving to others. Put my life at risk to protect others.
Yeah,
hosting other kibbutz to make them safe to be able to rebuild their kibbutz. This is the level of community and how due to outstanding community and close and giving to the others. This is what makes us stronger.
Well, I'm doing quick math in my head. That's probably about $1 million for.
That's exactly right. Just under $1 million.
Which is real money, and at the same time, not that bad.
Right.
You know, and for those listening, you know, $500. If you're looking to quantify, like $500 could take care of a family for a month. You know, $3,000 for 6 months. Like, that's a real quantifiable goal. That's the problem when you see, you guys do this in disaster work, right? Like, you see this giant tsunami, and where do I even start in the answer, right? As I start with what's right in front of me.
That's right.
And, you know, we have been, you know, praying for a place to, and we have a lot of friends inside of Israel from all different backgrounds and whatever. But it was, like, this is what we have been praying for, was how we could, our church is called Conduit, which is just a piece of pipe. And the idea is very simple, and that's that you connect this conduit, you know, so conduit to church, to city serve, right, to dock, to, you know, you connect enough of them together, and that's how you make the provision go further. So we're saying on our side, whether the Deeper podcast here, that if you want to help, ConduitChurch.com, there's a drop down that says Israel support. 100% of that will go to this, to you guys. We've already got 10,000 ready to go for you.
Wow.
Thank you.
So you know that's like 3 families, but you know, and we want to do more than that. So if you're listening, whether you're in Canada, Florida, wherever you're listening from, you can ConduitChurch.com, Israel support on the drop down, and we'll just funnel that out as fast as it comes in.
Thank you
for
so
you
much,
guys.
Pastor.
Thank you.
Doc, out of curiosity, what brings you to the States? Are you here with your kids right now? Is your family back home?
I'm here with two of my daughter. That's exactly what we're doing here. We're here for fundraising and for telling our story from a very personal point of view.
Yeah.
Just, people, when I give an example, people can understand the situation, like the level of threat that my kids have still dealing with is give an example, like my 13-year-old daughter don't brush her hair, wash her hair if we're not next to the door, because she's afraid to close their eyes and open one of the Hamas terrorists will be there. That's the mental support we have to provide them in the next few months. That's why your financial support will fulfill this gap. That's what we need now.
Yeah.
Provide them the help that they need now, the kids.
Where are you guys staying in Israel? Are you in Tel Aviv? Are you with?
So we are most of the village now staying in Eilat, in the hotel in Eilat. This is the southest city in Israel.
Your family's there too, yeah.
Yeah, we are there for more than 7 weeks already.
Am I remembering right that Eilat is right on the Egyptian border?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I almost got in trouble there. I went. It's a long story. Anyway, yeah, the Egyptians were not. They didn't find me charming, but yeah, it's a weirdly beautiful part of Israel.
Beautiful. It's like right next to the Red Sea.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Like the desert, the border between the desert and the Red Sea. It's a
gorgeous
spot. It is gorgeous.
Yeah, I've only been there twice because it's a commitment to, if you're going to do a 10 or 12-day tour in Israel, to get it all in, even though it's not that large of a country, it's large in heritage. And so, to make a decision to do Eilat, on the same trip as, like, say, Tel Dan or whatever, like, it's just, you're covering a lot of miles in a bus.
Yeah.
So.
Eilat is our favorite city for holidays. It's like beautiful.
So, when do you go home?
It's a wonderful question. We want to go back home as soon as possible. But
and when you say home, you mean Ein Habesor?
Of course, Ein Habesor. This is our home. Will remain our home forever. There's not any question about it. We just need to be safe. We need the IDF and the military operation to do whatever they need to do to make it safe to come back. But in the day it will be allowed to come back, we will do that. The entire village will come back. The entire village will rebuild a new neighborhood for our neighbors, for other kibbutzim, that will be able to come back and to make this beautiful piece of land alive again.
What is you're in the States? Wait, how long are you in the States for?
We're going to be for 6 days, seven flights,
and then head back to Tel Aviv.
Back to Tel Aviv, and then down south to Eilat. Yeah.
Okay. Well, know that the people that listen to this podcast, people that are part of our conduit circles, like we're praying for your country, we're praying for your people by name. I don't say it lightly when I say that. Even having friends like Zev Orenstein have been so great for me, because I know that there's a history inside of people who've called themselves Christians that is anti-Semitic, and it's demonic. It's literally from the pit of hell. Anti-Semitism and Satanism are the same thing, and I honestly don't know how they could get there other than with demons, because again, Romans is the gospel. Like when you talk about like the gospel, the Romans road to salvation, and Romans 11 is literally in the middle of that. Like it wasn't like Paul just threw in some aside. It was core to what he was saying. And we see what we've tried to do here, just so you know, Doc, is like we've tried to approach this from a biblical worldview, right? But even if you pull the Bible out of it and just pull just a very common sense geopolitical or social, like every angle of this speaks of the need for a country like Israel to survive and to thrive. And I think it was about a month ago that Netanyahu had an op-ed piece in the Journal, and I know he's a polarizing figure, but he rightly stated, this is not just a battle this is a battle for Western civilization. Yeah. This is literally a battle, and I've spent an enormous amount of time in North Africa, Middle East, places that I can't tell them I'm a Christian. We can't, because there is no freedom in these nations, and some of these are considered moderate Islamist countries, right? We can't, even if you just go from a purely geopolitical or liberal whatever perspective, it's common sense that this nation survives and thrives, and at the ground level, your families deserve better than what the universities and what some of our political figures and pastoral figures have spoken. Because when you see, like I said, go back to Zev, like he said he grew up in New Jersey. I want to put words in his mouth, but he said, when I looked at Christians, it wasn't that we hated him. It was just more like you saw a snake on the road. You just went to the other side. But when you go back in history and realize, if you think about what happened during the Crusades or some of what the Catholic Church has done over history, I can see why, if you're a Jewish person, you might have some hesitations.
We've given them good ammunition.
Yeah. But I know this, none of them, unlike Islam, if you're a good Muslim, you can justify anything that Hamas is doing with the Quran. You cannot, as a Christian, a follower of Christ, justify any of the nonsense with the Bible. You have to torture it, make it say something it didn't say, or completely ignore it altogether, but you can't justify it not with the teachings of Jesus. If Muhammad is the great example for Islam, what they have an example of right now is a guy who murdered, who committed jihad himself, or we have Jesus, the model of a guy that instead of, the basic core tenet of Christianity is, let's say of Islam, it is your body broken for me. That's Islam. Jesus is my body broken for you. And it's the complete opposite view of the world.
Hearing your words, your very accurate words, is just an example how different religions can make it happen.
Yeah.
When you support us, that allow us to support other and make this cycle, that's the truth of giving.
Yeah.
That's the truth of giving, like making Christian and Jews together for a better future. This is what you give us. You give us hope.
Yeah. Well, it's our honor to get to do it. And Jesus specifically said, these brothers of mine. There's an argument to be made very specifically that he very specifically meant his Jewish brothers and sisters. Lost on me, I just finished a book called Hitler's Cross. I don't know if you've read it. It's from the 90s. Of how he used the cross to pull off his thing, which is, you talk about demonic.
Yeah, that's it.
But I look at what we get the chance of what the cross actually meant, again, which is our Jesus' body broken. So we get to be a part of his brothers and sisters. Jesus was Jewish, 100%. Born in Israel, raised in Israel, died in Israel. We believe resurrected in Israel. We believe coming back to Israel. And it's one of the things that Zev and I joke about, which is one of the things we'll know is when Messiah comes, is we'll have one question: is this your first time? If it's his first time, Zev was right? If it's a second time, then I'm right. But either way, Romans 11 with it. So if you are interested in helping, I would ask for you to prayerfully consider, even like, what is that, $10 a day, for $300 a month, if you can only do a day, whatever it is, Israel support, we want desperately to be a part of what Jesus himself wanted us to be a part of, which is to be Jesus to his brothers in Israel. Any parting thoughts for us, Todd?
I love the whole atmosphere and vibe of what's coming from this podcast, because I believe it's truly entrenched in what the heart of God's all about. And we have an opportunity, we have a moment that really can create a movement, and that is bringing the Christian world, the true blood-bought believers in Jesus, with their brothers, our Jewish brothers and sisters from the nation of Israel. This truly can be that bridge that links us closer together, and we can't miss this moment.
Yeah, that's good, because this is a moment, and this is a moment where we get to, where I grew up, Peter, get off the pot. I don't know what the proper metaphor is.
Yeah.
We can also think, just looking at it from different perspective, this dark Saturday, this Black Saturday, it's also an opportunity. With all the such a sad story that happened that day, it's an opportunity to bring to bridges between Christian and Jews.
Yeah. Well, we're here for it. This church, when I say the church in our mind is not a place. It's not a what. The church is a who. It's Jesus' bride. That's what we. But we have a chance to. One of the words that Jesus talked about, actually, northern Israel, right? Caesarea Philippi, where the gates of hell will not prevail against my church. Those were offense words, not defense. It wasn't we build a wall and wait for the enemy to come attack us. Right. We go to where the gates of hell are and we kick him down. So, extreme poverty is a gate of hell. Lack and violence is a gate of hell. So we get to the Church of Jesus to say, we're going to kick down this gate of hell and bring peace and build an outpost of the kingdom of God until Messiah comes for the first or second time, depending on who's right. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Thank you for being here with us. I know you've got a lot, especially you're trying to get a lot in 6 days. So we're going to do our best. Like I said, I know we have $10,000. I would love that to be significantly more. So in the coming days, we'll keep pointing them in that direction and serve you guys. So thank you for being here. ConduitChurch.com. If you're in the Nashville area, we'd love to have you join us 9 a.m., 11 a.m., and 5 p.m. And we would really love it if you come to the 5 p.m. so we don't have to turn any more cars away on Sunday morning. Tomorrow, actually, I don't know if we'll be broadcasting. At the time of this broadcasting, it's a Saturday. I don't know if this will be released before tomorrow, but if you happen to be around tomorrow, Todd and Dr. Gepner are going to join us for a few minutes in each one of our gatherings to talk to the larger church. We hope you can join us. ConduitChurch.com, Israel support in the drop down. We'll catch you next time.